In a dramatic change of his previous policies, Donald Trump has now announced a massive weapons package for Ukraine. We'll talk about this as well as about anything else that has happened along the front lines and behind them in this sitrep about the war in Ukraine. In a press conference with the NATO secretary, Donald Trump announced that he's going to send additional weapons to Ukraine. Those in his administration and surrounding him who wanted to stay out of the war in Ukraine have thus clearly lost. The conversation includes missiles. What kind of missiles is unclear so far, and the NATO General Secretary is talking about massive numbers of weapons that are going to be sent. We'll talk about this in the international aid section of this video. First, we're going to start off with the developments along the front line. And here we have developments. We start in Sumy, and in Sumy we have geolocated the Russians having advanced further south in Yurakivka. This is here on this side where now the Russians are south of the road in this area. And as you can see, the pro-Ukrainian deep state map is basically saying that all of Yurakivka is now a contested area. That's it from this region. We switch to Kharkiv and I cannot see any change in territory. Neither can I confirm any change in territory along the whole eastern front until the Seversky Donetsk. So it does not seem that the Russians have advanced anywhere there. Further south in the Siversk region, I cannot confirm any changes either. So we switch to the Konstantinivka area, and here we do have changes. The Russians have occupied new positions west of the northern Dnipro. We have that here on the map, a geolocation of a Russian in a position there and a second attack right here. Also, again, position which would confirm that this area here and this area here is, or at least at the time of the attacks, was under Russian control. So the Russian area of control should probably be extended up to here. As I said in previous videos, according to what I see, the contested area, the gray zone, is significantly bigger in this area than as the deep state map shows us. The Russians have also attacked east of Oleksandro Kalinove. We have geolocations here as well, where they drop off infantry east of the town with an IFV, which is later then be hit. What happened with that infantry that was east of town is unclear, but it would indicate that the area here is probably a contested area as well. Whether they managed to gain a foothold or not cannot be confirmed at this point. The Khotitsia spokesperson, Colonel Viktor Trehubov, this is the area of responsibility of the Khotitsia group. He says the Russians are several times superior in personnel in the region, but their attacks are conducted with high losses due to soldiers being badly trained. Usually just after 2 weeks of training, the Russians sent their soldiers into infantry attacks. That's it from this area. We switch to the Pokrovsk area, and here we have news. The Russians have advanced towards Novotoretsk. We have that geolocated here, which is at this point here. So the Russians have geo-confirmed reached this point, but as we can see, the pro-Ukrainian deep state map is saying that Novotoretsk is partially already under Russian control, including the next town Boykivka, which is contested at this point. Further to the southwest we have, we have changes as well in the area of Novoekonomichne. Here in this area we have the Russians here, close to Fedorivka. This was not Novoekonomichne yet. This is here. And close to Fedorivka, we have the Russians in the eastern part of the town, confirming that the Russians have entered this area as well. So they are advanced in the northeast of Mirnograd, and north is continuing. We also have them here in Novoekonomichne, and here we can see that they have crossed the main road and advanced further to the north, or they have reached it from the north. That is unclear as of now, but we see that the Russians are in Novoekonomichne. They are in the north, they are a little bit northwest of it, and in the last geolocations they are between those two reservoirs, so they have already reached this point. So likely at this point the contested area is probably like this. We recently had the Russians entering Novoekonomichne from the south, so all of this here is contested now. The pressure on Mirnograd is increasing. The Russians have now closed in probably to 4 kilometers to this town and are continuing with their envelopment of Pokrovsk and Mirnograd with the turning maneuver they are currently doing. That's it from this region. We switch to the Dnipro direction, and here we have the Russians in Novochatske. We have that geolocated here at this point. This is further to the southwest here in the region where the Russians have recently advanced and managed to advance further towards the northwest. Here they are in Novochatske. As we can see here, the geolocation seems to indicate that the town of Novochatske is probably taken over by the Russians. I cannot fully confirm this yet, but it seems at least possible. And Mirne itself, further south, is also showing a Russian presence, and they're waving their flag there. So it seems that Mirne has fallen to the Russians as well. Further south, the Russians also have advanced in Malinivka, which is here. As we can see, the deep state map is still showing the majority of the town in Russian hands, but we have geolocations now all over the town, including the north up to the northern part of the town. So the whole area here now has a Russian presence. Again, not fully confirmed whether they managed to consolidate or whether this is just to be considered no man's land now, but the Ukrainians seem to be pushed out of Malinivka here at this point. That's it. Almost it. I have one more actually, and the Russians have advanced in Kamyansk as well. Here in the northeast they reached the end of the town itself. This is quite significant, as Kamyansk was on the high ground, or is on the high ground, and was supposed to hold the Russians back towards the south in the direction of Zaporizhzhia, and the Russians managed to cross Kamyansk now in roughly 1.5 weeks. This is still just an advance of a kilometer, but an advance of a kilometer through a town that is part of the protective belt south of Zaporizhzhia. It's too early to start with some panic, and there we can come to a summary. The Ukrainians have at least 6 defensive lines between Zaporizhzhia and the current front line, but those defensive lines will be tested in the near future. Other than that, there are 2 directions which are currently problematic for the Ukrainians. One is this one, where the Russians continue to be successful into the direction of Dnipro Oblast, and the other one is getting more problematic. This is this here. The Ukrainians were so far not able to permanently halt the Russians, not even here at the high ground yet. So the Russians are in the process of bypassing Mirnograd in the north, and thus will threaten the lines of communication into Pokrovsk and Mirnograd, and thus in their head, they are aiming for a turning maneuver to force the Ukrainians to withdraw, especially with the presence of long-range drones. The resupply of the Ukrainian soldiers in the pocket of Mirnograd and Pokrovsk will be increasingly dangerous, increasingly more difficult, and increasingly causing more casualties, which will in the end probably force the Ukrainians to withdraw if the Russians manage to advance a little further to the north. To the west, we can see here, this is obviously the main route, and the Russians are fairly close to it, but there are side roads here, like this, for instance, which is right now still safer than the southern route. The Ukrainians can use it to drive somewhere here to the west and then go back to that main road to keep the distance higher. But if the Russians reach Rodynske, this road is out of the question, and then this is the only line of supply that will be permanently attacked by Russian drones and artillery, and thus the situation of the Ukrainians inside of Pokrovsk and Mirnograd will get increasingly more difficult. That's it with the overview. We have one more information about the Ukrainian Shahid interceptors. This is an example of them. It's a fairly common design that we've seen so far, as it shows it's capable of vertical launch, and at the same time with the wings it increases the lift and thus saves energy, and that allows it, together with the 4 engines, to achieve a fairly high speed, high enough to intercept attack drones. Hundreds of them have already been successfully used, and according to reports, tens of thousands are ordered now. So this is one of the means that Ukraine hopes will curb the Russian drone attacks in the near future. Now let's come to the international support. Trump basically says he's had it. He lost his patience. He said every time he's having great phone calls with Trump, he's coming home to Melania, to his wife, and saying that was a great phone call with Putin. And she responds, he just attacked another city. Trump has said he's going to issue 100% tariffs on Russia and secondary tariffs if in 50 days there is no deal. Now, 100% secondary tariffs would mean everyone buying from Russia, probably focused on oil and gas, will be forced to pay 100% additional tariffs. The interesting part there is against whom is he going to enforce it? China is one of the big purchasers of Russian energy, and so far he has not shown that he's willing to go into a long trade war with China with tariffs higher than 100%. India would be another customer, but also obviously many NATO states like Turkey, like the European Union. Whether the 100% will be enforced against them too, whether they even come, is a different question, obviously too. But that this could be effective is probably likely, as it would increase the costs for all those nations to export to the US. And in the end, they will have to make a choice to either accept higher priced oil and gas from different sources, or to basically have the majority of their trade with the US grounding to a halt. He said that the US are going to send weapons to Ukraine and the Europeans are going to pay for this. Mark Rutte, the NATO General Secretary, spoke about air defense, munition and missiles. Now, missiles is unclear yet. It seems likely that it's going to be the JASSM. The JASSM, at least that's the speculation so far, that JASSM will probably be among the weapon systems if they are being sent. Now, this is, as said, a lot of media are speculating about JASSM. A lot of summaries are also talking about that offensive weapons will be included. That much seems to be certain. It could be ATACMS as well. It could be GMLRS, additional GLMRS, but JASSM is definitely one of the potential options. JASSM is more or less comparable with Scalp and Storm Shadow. The missile itself the cruise missile can have a range of up to 1,000 kilometers. That would, for instance, put the factories for the Shahid drones, put them in range. So this could be a means of Trump to help the Ukrainians against the nightly attacks against their cities. But whether or not he's going to deliver that is obviously a different question. The missile itself has a 450 kilogram warhead, or 1,000 pound warhead. And it is likely that probably only a version with 350 kilometers would be sent, as the US would likely more send their older versions of this cruise missile. So far, it's unclear what exactly is going to be sent in the offensive department. But according to Trump, in a few days, the first Patriot battery would already arrive. Another state would deliver, another country would deliver, and would have it's replaced. He mentioned there is a nation with 17 Patriot, and the majority of it goes to Ukraine. Now, it's unclear what he's talking about there. I think the only operator of 17 Patriot systems is the US. Anyone else has a lower number, at least as far as my knowledge, and the only one giving away a bigger number that was ever in discussion is Israel, and Israel had 10 to 12 batteries. The exact number is unclear. It's possible that he's talking about 17 vehicles, so launch TELs basically, but it's unclear as of now. The generally, though, this is a big deal, as he has made the step towards delivering delivering something in a sizable number that was not agreed by Joe Biden. Europe is going to pay for it. So this allows him to tell to his domestic audience that instead of Biden giving everything away for free, on my side, we are getting paid for it. But while this is clearly a win for him in the domestic area, all those who want isolationism will have to see this as a loss, as obviously under him now the deliveries of weapon systems to Ukraine will continue. So far, it's probably too early to cheer. The fact that more is going to come, that the weapons package is supposed to be sizable, is obviously good news, but we do not see so far yet the details, and that this delivery is sizable enough to put actual pressure on Russia still has to be seen. As said, 1,000-kilometer JASMs would be a way to do that, to allow Ukraine to actually destroy the factories that produce the weapons. That would be putting pressure on Russia, but it seems unlikely, at least as of now, that this is going to be sent. Overall, though, still good news. Ukraine is going to get more air defense. Ukraine will be able to get more weapons from the United States. The times where Trump is staying out seem to be over. All of this obviously has to be seen with some kind of skepticism. We've seen so far that Trump can flip-flop fairly easy in certain things, but as of now, at least, there is reason for optimism, even though there is no indication that this is going to be a decisive delivery. Even if he delivers additional ATACMS, even if some JASMs are going to come, obviously numbers will matter, and that there will be numbers sent that make a decisive change in the war seems highly unlikely. Regardless, though, as said, good news, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps with the algorithm. If you're new here, I would like to invite you to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. Leave a comment if you have something to add. This channel is only possible because of the support of viewers like you. If you like to support the channel, you can do so by the means in the description. But that's it from me for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back.